Welcome back. I want to do a super quick Pendulum 101, just a real quick brief rundown of how they're basically used. A pendulum looks like this, and they come in lots of different shapes, sizes, and colors. You can find some that are just like little pyramids, or you can even make one at home. That would be a fun DIY. Little strings with a ball on the end, or even a necklace you have, whatever. But you can get some from a metaphysical shop like this. I picked one with the chakra colors, and it's got a quartz tip. You can use pendulums for communicating with the other side, most commonly for answers to yes or no questions, or even for things like chakra balancing and energy healing. Now, when you're looking to choose a pendulum, do choose one much like you choose any other crystal, which you can find tips for choosing the right crystal for you in my recent video here. So, much like that, you're going to want to find one you connect with, one that feels warm to the touch, one that calls to you in some way particular to you. Now, in my opinion, while a pendulum is a form of divination, for me, it feels more like it works with your intention. It doesn't access universal secrets or fortune telling. It more can reach into your subconscious and your higher consciousness and give you the answers to things that deep down, inwardly, you already know the answer to. You just aren't aware of it in the forefront of your mind. So it's important when choosing your pendulum that you get one that feels right to you, because a lot of times your pendulum isn't going to work with someone else. It's going to only respond to you. So, for example, I tried to get my spouse to use my pendulum, and because of his inner feelings that it wouldn't work, etc., because I had connected with it personally so much, it wouldn't work with him at all. You know, it's important to ask before you start using a pendulum, will you work with me? And in this instance, it would not work with my spouse, but it always worked uncannily well for myself. So let's get started on how to use one. So you can use a board like this, and my next video will be a DIY on how I made this board. This is a pendulum board, or you can buy on Amazon a wooden board like this, or even a simple mat like this. Or you can do what I've done most of the time before making a board, is either draw out a simple yes-no graph, or you can have a Google image up on your phone as you use it, or you can even just, be aware of what direction your pendulum will move for the answer yes, and what direction it will move for no. Now, most of the time I usually just use yes, no, but in this one I've added in rephrase and maybe. And the reason I've done that is because I find that with pendulum use, there are certain things that maybe your higher consciousness does not yet know, or is not meant to reveal to yourself yet. So there are times where it'll kind of go wonky, and it won't really go in one line or the other, and you'll kind of get either a circling or a bobbing, or it'll go in a direction that you haven't set up for a yes or no. And so to me, that means it's important to ask a different way or change your question altogether. A lot of times it's important to ask your question a different way. So with that, it's important when you first get a pendulum to first sage your pendulum, because again, you're getting it from Amazon or a crystal shop, and like I said in my crystal video, it's getting all these other energies and baggages attached to it. And so it's important to do that, and especially even after a very heavy session with your pendulum, you'll want to kind of clear that energy that you've put onto it so that it is ready to use for your next session. And that's especially true if you're one of those people that carry your pendulum around with you in your pocket all day. You're always going to be picking up energy when you do that. So to cleanse your pendulum and get it ready for the next session, or just cleanse it after first purchasing it, you're going to let the sage smoke kind of just waft over the whole thing. You can imagine any darkness or negativity, any heaviness, just being released with the smoke from the smudging. And as you do that, you know that it is getting cleansed and ready to use. And I find after purchasing, it is really important to meditate with your crystal quite a lot, to sit with it, to just be mindful of what your purposes are, and to just spend time with it, if that makes sense. Carry it around for a couple days, think on it, hold it, connect with it. It's really important to get a connection with your pendulum, because like I said, it's working off of your own subconscious, and so you want to, really have a strong connection. The ways to hold your crystal, a lot of times I like to hold it like this, where I'll have the end pinched in one finger, and I will have the pendulum hanging from my other hand. And it's good to hold it kind of high up rather than low down, or else you won't really be able to have it move very well. So it's good to do it like that, and a lot of people will just pinch it in one place and let it dangle, okay? Now, between questions, you can also, what I usually do is I'll just steady it with my hand really carefully until I know it's really still. But I've seen other people that just touch the base of their board with their tip of their pendulum, and that's called resetting it. So it's up to you which way you find works best. Now, when you first start using your pendulum, you can ask it questions that you already know the answers to. For example, always start with something like, is my hair green? Is my hair purple? Am I male or am I female? Or, whatever seems really obvious to you personally. And as you're holding it, ask the question while it is still. And you're going to hold your hand very still. You're going to wait for it to move in whatever direction that you've set up. A lot of people that aren't using a board will just simply say, show me what yes looks like, and show me what no looks like. Okay? So when you say, show me what yes looks like, you'll get something like this maybe. Show me what no looks like, you'll get something like this. Okay? This is really a super simple tool, and your boards can get super complicated if you want them to. You can do letters, you can do, something a lot like a Ouija board if you want, where, it's supposed to go to particular letters. I've not done anything like that. I'm not super drawn to divination myself, but I do really enjoy using a pendulum. It's, I've seen people locate things that they've lost using a pendulum, and I think that that is so interesting by asking, is it straight? Is it to the left? Is it by the couch? And then letting the pendulum guide them using their own higher consciousness to the item they're looking for. So it's really a super cool thing. So I just want to get to asking some questions. So you would say something like, do I have black hair? And you see it immediately goes my sideways direction of no. Sorry that my hand is kind of right in my face. Okay, and then because I'm going to use both hands, I will just use the tapping to the bottom method to reset. So I will say, always ask, once you've asked your preliminary questions, will you work with me? And you just wait for an answer. Sometimes it takes a minute. If nothing happens, ask again. Okay, so say nothing happens. I'm going to hold it up, make sure I'm holding it up high. Will you work with me? I don't know if you can catch it on camera, but I'm getting this bobbing motion, which is something that this pendulum does with me a lot. And I remember one of the first times I used it, it really irked me out because it feels like and it looks like someone else is moving it. And it felt really eerie to me. And at that point, that was when I had my spouse try to use it, and it wasn't doing anything at all for him. So I found that really interesting. But I've learned that it's really, motions aside, it's not someone else doing it unless you're using it for that purpose, which is not something that I do. So again, you can ask simple questions that you know the answer to get an idea of your yes and no directions. And then you can begin by saying, will you work with me? If you're not getting a response, try saging it, try meditating with it, or try waiting on it. If you get an immediate response, go ahead and start working. Will this video help someone today? I'm getting a yes. That's pretty neat. So I hope you have enjoyed this really simple tutorial. It's the utter basics, but this is how a pendulum is used. And I really hope that that is meaningful to you and has maybe taught something new. I really enjoy working with these. They're a lot of fun. Some people even take them to the grocery store to ask, you know, what foods, you know, is this food a good food for me? You know, should I get the sweet potato or the tomato or whatever? And, you know, in getting answers to that, it may seem silly, but, you know, your higher mind is going to know the answers to these things that maybe in our, you know, frontal conscious mind, we don't really, our day-to-day mind, I should say, we don't really realize we know those answers. So I hope that's been helpful to you. Thank you for watching, and namaste.